The following Congressional Candidates Forum is sponsored by SCAN Health Plan as a public service to the community.
Hello and welcome to the Congressional Candidates Forum for the 2012 California primary election. I'm Art Levine and I'll be the host and moderator. The purpose of this forum is to introduce and present the candidates who have qualified for the June 5th primary ballot in the 47th Congressional District race. The 47th District is a new district, as are all the districts in California. It was redrawn last year by the California Citizens Redistricting Commission. The new district encompasses most of Long Beach, all of Signal Hill and Avalon, parts of Lakewood, and neighboring areas in Orange County, including all of Rossmore, Los Alamitos, and Cypress, and portions of Stanton, Westminster, and Garden Grove. The district is approximately 60% LA County and 40% Orange County. Not only is the district different, but the upcoming primary election is different from previous state primaries. Because of Proposition 14, approved by California voters in 2010, the state primary is now an open primary. In this congressional race, all the candidates from all political parties must now compete in the same primary contest. Regardless of party affiliation, the top two vote-getters in the June 5th primary will face off in the November general election. This candidates forum is brought to you by Straight Talk Productions in cooperation with the College of Continuing and Professional Education at California State University, Long Beach. The Congressional Candidates Forum is being sponsored by SCAN Health Plan as a public service to the community. Before I introduce the candidates, I would like to review the rules governing the forum. Each candidate gets 1 minute for an opening statement. Questions will be asked by the moderator and addressed to a specific candidate. Each candidate gets 1 minute to respond to each question. If in answering a question, a candidate mentions the name or refers to another candidate in a manner that would warrant a response, that other candidate will get 30 seconds to respond. Each candidate will get 1 minute for a closing statement. The moderator reserves the right to break the format in the interest of fairness or clarity. We have 5 candidates with us today. They are Peter Matthews, Gary DeLong, Steve Kuykendall, Sanford Kahn, and Dr. Jay Shah. The 6th candidate, State Senator Alan Lowenthal, whose appearance had initially been confirmed by us, could not attend because of changed legislative responsibilities. His opening and closing statements will be presented on videotape. The last candidate is Yusha Shah. She had planned to participate in this forum, but a family emergency has prevented her appearance. Each candidate will now have 1 minute for an opening statement, starting with Peter Matthews. Peter?
Thank you, Art. It's great to be here on Straight Talk TV. My name is Peter Matthews. I'm professor of political science at Cypress College. I've been there for 26 years. And I also have been living in Long Beach for 21 years in the Belmont Heights area. And I must say that I'm running for Congress because we have to change our country's direction right now. I would like to make sure that we bring in health care for everyone, and not only that, but education and jobs and the economy, which are key issues right now. And Bill, by the way, I've been an educator for 35 years in colleges and teaching at Cypress for a long time. I see that many of my students have had to drop out of school because of the high tuition costs, and we're not able to compete with South Korea, China, and India, and Germany on high technology, new types of technologies, which we can do if we educate our students and then create jobs. Here's how we create jobs. We lower the corporate tax rate. We give corporations tax credits for being able to keep jobs in America and also come to America and to set up jobs here. And then we also make sure that the companies that are taking jobs overseas, we close those corporate loopholes, bring the money in to balance our budget, because fiscal responsibility is also very important to me.
Thank you, Peter. Councilman Gary DeLong.
Thank you, Art. I'm Gary DeLong, and I'm running to represent you in the 47th Congressional District. Like many Americans, I'm concerned that our country is headed in the wrong direction. The federal government is overspending by over $1 trillion a year. We've created a $15 trillion national debt, which we won't even be able to pay. We're going to hand off to our kids and our grandkids. The price of gas is at an all-time high. The economy is faltering. Unemployment is up. Clearly, we need to turn things around, and I believe we can. I believe that America's best days are in front of us, but we do need to work together. We need to change the course we're on. We need to make things happen. I'm a proud father of 3 daughters, and I'm going to work hard to create a better future for them. I'm going to make sure that we're passing on an America that's better than the one we inherited. And thank you for the invitation to join you today.
Thank you, Gary. Former Congressman Steve Kuykendall.
I've had the great privilege to represent many of you in the past when I used to be your state legislator in the Long Beach area. And before that, I was a city councilman and a mayor. And subsequent of all of those, I actually served a term in Congress some time back, but reapportionment, as we've just gone through again, made that impossible to be in that seat. So I'm back again, and I'd very much like to represent you again. When I was in Congress, we had balanced budgets. We actually had an economy that was growing. And we were dealing with a divided House again. We had a divided Congress in the Republican hands. We had a Democrat in the White House, and yet we still were able to pass legislation that balanced the budget, cut your taxes, and kept a strong military and a growing economy. I think some of those skills, sometimes a little different than what you might have just normally coming up with how you campaign, but in this case, I've actually done it, and I'd like your support so that I can do it again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Sanford Kahn.
Thank you, Art. This one thing I do know, ladies and gentlemen, I've been a longtime resident of Long Beach, Belmont Shore, Belmont Heights area since 1969. But as far as our problems in our country, I know one thing: that unless we're growing economically, we have vibrant economic growth, we will not produce the revenues to solve our problems. And the way you get vibrant economic growth is to institute policies on a national level that'll encourage work, saving, and investment. The genesis of growth, the generators of growth, are small business people, entrepreneurs. They have to be rewarded for risk-taking. Without them, there'll be no new employment possibilities. We have to reorient our tax system to encourage work, saving, and investment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandy. Dr. Jay Shah.
Hi, Mr. Art. Thank you for inviting. My name is Dr. Jay Shah, MD, consultant specialist, retired U.S. Air Force Major. We have many issues, but main thing is service. People who are in Washington don't know why they are there. Instead of service, they are controlling. Second, coverage of corruption, crime, poor health records. Millions of people are dying every year in America for no reason because of cover-up of the poor care. Other is respect of the women, veterans, seniors, Social Security funding, and other medical rules are very important to us. I think we have to change Washington because people who are there, don't know why they are there. I am only service-oriented. I serve everywhere, wherever need. I'm a family man. I live in Long Beach 30 years, work in county 33 years. I am very happy that I am trying to do something, change for your future generations. Survival, very essential. Economy, employment, very great issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. And now by videotape, Senator Alan Lowenthal.
Hello, I'm Alan Lowenthal. I'm sorry that I can't be with you today, but I know one thing. It's that we're not going to get out of our nation's crisis unless we work together. As a parent, a college professor, and as a public servant, I've done my best to bring people together to solve the difficult problems facing our community, including jobs, education, and safe neighborhoods. When I was on the Long Beach City Council, I brought businesses and schools together in the Long Beach Compact, and more recently in the state legislature, I authored the Long Beach College Promise Partnership Act to better prepare students for college and for work. I've championed improving our air quality and at the same time investing in new clean technologies. But I will not bend on the core issues of protecting Social Security and Medicare from fundamentalist attempts to destroy these key programs. I will not allow our environment to be sullied and sold, and I will not allow a women's rights to be trampled or compromised.
We're back now in the studio, and we'll start the questioning with Peter Matthews. Peter, it seems that every election season you're running for something. What compels you to continually run for office? You obviously have a passion for this.
Yes, Art, but it sounds like it's a bad thing where you're saying that I'm running again for office. Well, I'll keep running as long as my daughter's next school, for 4 years from now, my daughter, who was just born 3 months ago, is supposed to enter Fremont Elementary School in 4.5 years. There was a lemonade stand around the corner where Mom and 3 or 4 children were selling lemonade, Art, to keep the science lab open and the computer lab. As long as that exists in our district and our country is going the wrong direction, we have to have more employment here in this country, high-paying jobs. As long as we are having wars that are unjustified, we have to bring the money back here for our folks right here. We need health care for every single American. That hasn't been done with the Obama reform yet. We have a lot of things to do. So I'm going to run until I win, God willing, and then get in there and represent our district in Congress and our country and our state. And, you know, don't blame me for not having experience, because I've actually been a professor of political science and government where I've studied it for years. And the folks that are in Congress have tried to do a good job, but there's something lacking that has to be worked on.
Thank you, Peter. Gary, you are a moderate Republican, and you are running to join the United States Congress, which is very much dominated by the right wing, the conservative wing. Won't you be very lonely should you be successful in this race as a moderate Republican in the United States Congress as currently constituted?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure that it's dominated by any wing. I think that's a problem we have both in Sacramento and Washington, is both sides aren't working together. You have people on the fringes, they're on the extreme edges. So I think exactly what we need is we need moderate people that are independent voices, that don't speak on behalf of party bosses, they represent their constituents, and they can work on both sides of the aisle to develop solutions for all Americans. So I'm running to be that moderate, independent voice. I'm not running to represent a party.
Thank you. Steve Kuykendall, you've served in the state legislature, you served, as we mentioned earlier, in the United States Congress. What has motivated you to want to return to an institution that is under 20% in favorability rating in polls throughout the country? Why do you want to be part of the United States Congress, which is dysfunctional as we speak?
I can give you the flip answer first. Right now I'm represented by a Lowenthal in the City Council, a Lowenthal in the State Assembly, and a Lowenthal in the State Senate, and I just soon not have a Lowenthal representing me in Congress. Now, that put aside all respect to Alan and his current billing. The kind of legislator that I was not a cookie cutter right or a cookie cutter left, obviously, since I'm Republican, but I was able to bring together people, and I was able to get amendments in things such as how do we cut our taxes and not put us in the hole again, and at the same time function. I'm afraid that if you have somebody that is become the establishment candidate and they become locked into that position, they make it very difficult for you to have very much independence, I can tell you. And I've never been that candidate. I wouldn't have been able to win the seats that I've won in the past, which are not Republican majority seats. They are anything. They're Democrat majority seats usually.
Thank you. Sandy Kahn, you're back in the political swing of things again. What motivated you, and what do you think you can do?
Well, I ran twice against Glenn Anderson. I was a Republican nominee in the 1980s. Glenn was a great guy. Today would be a moderate Democrat. But the problems are, as they used to say during the Bill Clinton administration, it's the economy, stupid. It really is the economy this time. We're trying to tax our way to prosperity, and it won't work. It simply won't work. We have two choices going forward. Either we're going to empower the individual or empower government. I'm strictly for empowering the individual. Our tax system is screwed up. It does not encourage wealth production. I'd like to see a change. I want this economy to grow.
Thank you. Dr. Shah, you ran for Congress against Congressman Rohrabacher 2 years ago, and you're back for another round here. What's the most important thing you think you could do if you were to be successful in this race?
So the problem is that both parties, as you know, last 2 years have made so much mess in Washington that millions of people have a misery. You can imagine 92% of people have problem with the survival, unemployment, and of course economy. Also poor health care. Also, if you say cover-up of crimes, like that California Senate passed SBX 211 bill, which openly says that, corruption crime is okay. We give them retroactive blanket immunity. These don't seem like America, it looks like Russia somewhere. When Dr. Shah goes to Washington, America will not be the same. We want people's right. people's right, democracy established. What happens? They rob national and natural resources for the friends and buddies by career politicians. And I hate to be saying that we don't need career politicians. We need people who are simple, who are service-minded, like doctors and volunteers and like me. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter, if you were to be elected, what would be the first thing that you would address?
I would address the economy and jobs, because Art, jobs give human dignity. If you don't have a well-paying job so you can pay the bills and raise your children in an American dream, we don't really have a good life. So that's what I would work on first, sir, by lowering and giving tax credits to corporations to set up jobs in the United States and keep them here. And then also, I would also work on healthcare and education. Many students, like I said, kindergarten to university, are having a very difficult time making it through. And without a good education, you can't have the American dream. So I'd work on bringing in funds for that. President Obama has just offered $8 billion for community colleges nationwide. $2 billion would come to California. I would take that money and put it into job training for new types of technologies, building solar panels, building all kinds of interesting products like electric cars, electric batteries. We need new ideas with new vision that'll bring in that kind of a movement toward our country. So that's what I would do first and foremost. And don't forget, the Talmudic scholars once said, if you give a man a fish, he's hungry today. You teach him how to fish, he eats for a lifetime, Art. We're about teaching people how to fish using our private sector and our government.
Thank you, Peter. Gary, you're an incumbent city councilman. Part of your record will be a basis for people to decide whether they want to basically promote you to run to Congress. What are you proudest of in your years in public service as a city councilman?
Well, the things I'm proudest of is probably the skills that I would bring to Washington as well. First of all is being able to collaborate and build consensus. I'm one Republican on a 9-member city council, so 1 Republican, 8 Democrats, Democrat mayor. One of the best compliments I got from one of my colleagues recently, and I don't know if it was meant as a compliment, it was a frustrating thing, but they said, I don't understand it. How is it that you always get what you want and you're the only Republican here? What they didn't know is I got about 80% of what I wanted, and I had to build consensus. I had to work with my colleagues to get something done that was on the best interest of our citizens. But I'd say that specifically, certainly pension reform. I've been the leader on reforming the pension system in the city of Long Beach. We're a leader in the state of California in what we've been able to achieve. That has helped our budget difficulties tremendously. As chair of the Budget Oversight Committee, I've made sure we delivered a balanced budget every year, and we've made systemic changes. We haven't just tried to nibble around the edges. We have changed the way we deliver city services in the city of Long Beach so it's sustainable over the long haul. Those are the things I'm most proud of.
Thank you. Steve, you've been critical of Gary on the public safety issue. You've sent out emails critical of his votes and his performance. Why don't you take a run at that?
Gary's been chairman of the budget committee, always voted in favor of the budgets. He's been on the city council, always voted in favor of the budgets. The last 2 years, we're 170 police officers down. We've got less firefighters than we have positions, less firefighters and more positions for them. We've been shutting down equipment and putting equipment in brownout positions, and we've got no fire academy plan. We've got no police academy plan, and in fact, our police academy has even lost its certification to train police officers. I don't see anything out of that track record of which the budget chairman was leading the charge that would lend me to believe that this man think it's important to keep your community safe. He wants to balance the budget. Well, that's great. But in my opinion, the very first responsibility of any elected official is you keep your country or your neighborhood safe, and then you can work on everything else.
Gary, I'll give you 30 seconds to respond before we go to break.
Sure. Well, first of all, I do agree with Steve that public safety is the #1 responsibility, and we've met that responsibility. We're at all-time lows in crime. Violent crime is down, 40-year lows in the city of Long Beach. Our response times are outstanding in the fire department. So what we've done is we've been creative in the city of Long Beach. Rather than just throw labor at a problem, not worried about what it costs, we've gone to the chiefs, we've challenged them. How can you use technology better? How can you figure out how to solve problems without just putting more boots on the street? So we've done a great job in Long Beach. We've become more efficient. We've reduced crime. We've maintained a Class 1 fire department. We do outstanding public safety, and I'm proud to tell you we do it at a cheaper price than ever before. And that's what we need to do at the federal level.
Thank you, and we will take a pause and be right back with this Congressional Candidates Forum.
In today's world, everything's connected. From the workplaces that support us, to the homes that welcome us, to the trees and wildlife habitats that remind us how important our environment is. When a bird lands on a branch, and in the midst of a busy day, we stop to watch, it makes us realize We're all in the same boat. The Port of Long Beach welcomes this world with open arms, an environmental policy that's second to none, and a commitment to shaping a vibrant community. The Port of Long Beach, thinking outside the docks.
The facts are in. California State University Long Beach is among the nation's finest universities. For the fourth consecutive year, the campus ranked in the top 5 public comprehensive universities in the western United States. In 2007, Cal State Long Beach was named the 3rd best value among all American public colleges and universities. Through superior teaching, research, and community service, Cal State Long Beach is changing lives for a changing world.
We are back continuing our Congressional Candidates Forum. Sandy Kahn, you're a lecturer in business, you're a consultant. There seems to be a consensus that the economy is the #1 issue. What would you do to solve this problem?
Well, we have to have vibrant economic growth, and the way you're going to achieve vibrant economic growth is to give people the incentives to work, save, and invest for their futures. One of the strongest planks in my platform, but not the only plank, is that I firmly support a flat rate income tax of between 15 to 17% with a large standard deduction. After the large standard deduction, everybody pays the same. That's how you get the economy growing, by rewarding risk takers. Excessive taxation destroys incentives and also destroys opportunities. The idea is to get the economy moving by providing people with the opportunities so they may grow and prosper within the rule of law.
Dr. Shah, would you agree with a flat tax as proposed by by Sandy Kahn?
I think you need some improvement in taxation because, as you all know, rich people don't give tax enough. And of course, we give them a blanket checks in billions because, you know, this justice of corruption. This country is rich. We have everything except what we call people who are patriotic. They take their businesses out, have black money in the Swiss bank. They don't care about country. To me, that's why I'm running. Country come first, then people, then political parties. When you see 2 gangs fighting in Washington, Republican, Democrat both, people are hopeless. They have no hope. Think about pursuit of happiness. If we have control of our loss in national and natural resources, we have billions and billions of dollars. But what we do is, we just don't care about people. We just do care about our own pocket and buddies and things like that. And that's a bad thing for the country. God bless America, but people need blessing too.
Thank you, Doctor. Steve, you're a former member of Congress, you're a Marine. You know, as a member of Congress, you have to vote on issues of life and death, war and peace. Give us your view of our national foreign policy and what you would do differently if you were up there.
I tell you, the chairman of the Armed Services Committee just made a presentation yesterday. A fellow that I served with when I was there, he and I were very junior at that time, but he's now the chairman. We've got a military that has been at war for 10 years. They have got weapons that need to be replaced and upgraded, and they've been worn out. And we have got to figure out how to reconstitute that force and not do it by just laying off hundreds of thousands of them. And this current president is now talking about taking 100,000 out now and another 100,000 out next year or over the next couple of years as he stands down. And we're going to have a force then that is going to be more like the force we had after World War I. We are a nation that has interests all over the world, whether it's our trade patterns, and we have got to do a better job of increasing our ability to deal with countries because we're a global economy, We don't get the privilege of being able to stay within our borders any longer. And so we have to have a military, I think, that's going to be strong enough and yet at the same time capable enough in all kinds of circumstances to keep those interests safe.
Gary, same question to you. You, as a member of Congress, you're no longer counting how many police officers we have, but you're dealing with matters of life or death at the national level. Give us your thinking on on foreign policy?
Sure. Well, first of all, I think that Steve and I probably, it sounds like we're going to differ a little bit on this. I think while we all agree that national defense is our top priority, I think we need to be a little more thoughtful when we get engaged in foreign conflicts than we have been in the past. I also think we need to pay as you go. I think the fact that we've got involved in these situations and we've put hundreds of thousands of men and women in harm's way and we've done nothing to pay for it. All we've done is borrow money from China in order to finance those efforts. I think that's...
That was done under Republican presidents.
Both Republicans and Democrats, that's right. In fact, we have inherited these problems for at least the last decade, so it's definitely both administrations. So I would be more thoughtful before I made any of those commitments. I would continue to maintain a strong national defense, and I would make sure that we're paying for these services, and if that means we need to cut something else, then we need to cut something else. It's guns or butter. You don't get both.
Peter, what's your view of President Obama's handling of foreign policy and the various wars that we've been involved in the stand down, the drawdown in Afghanistan?
I support his drawdown in Iraq. I think it was appropriate and timely. But I do believe that we should make our foreign policy focus on economic development and joint ventures. Look at China. China has no troops around the world, but China has gone influenced Africa, Venezuela, other parts of South America with joint ventures to develop their oil resources, new energy forms, exporting solar panels, building high-speed maglev trains for themselves and other countries. I think we have it's called soft power. Professor Joseph Nye of Harvard talked about hard power and soft power. What Steve's referring to is hard power. And we need some defense. Of course we need to have some hard power to beat the bad guys back when they attack us. But we need soft power to keep these relationships going, Art, and to have respect in the world. And that gives us a lot of strength, much more than just having more and more interventionisms and wars that are unjustified or too many military bases around the world that we're paying for and hurting our own taxpayers here. Let's rebuild our schools here. Let's create housing that's affordable and that people can buy, and let the middle class grow and survive like we had back after World War II.
Sandy, America spends more on arms than all the rest of the world combined. Is that too much? You're a businessman.
Well, it depends how you calculate the numbers. The defense budget as a percent of the budget has actually gone down compared to where it was when Kennedy was president. But we're the leader of the free world. I mean, we inherited that. Who else could be the leader of the free world? Germany can't, Japan can't, Europe can't, we're it. Now, maybe we waste a lot of money, I agree, I do, and it could be spent better. But we are the leader of the free world. We have interests that have to be defended, and that's what we have to do. So you could argue that we don't spend the money wisely, I agree, but we are the leader of the free world, and we have to protect our national interests.
Thank you. Dr. Shah, I know medical care is high on your priorities. Do you support Obamacare, and do you think that's been a good thing for the country?
See, I will tell you a few things. I worked in Bombay, India. In England, practiced medicine, social. Canada, social. In New York City, private. And here, Beverly Hills and LA County, private. Question is, quality of health care in America is around 30, 31 number compared to the way we spend money. So we have most expensive care, but poor care. 1 million people are dying even today because of the neglect by the JCHO, state medical boards, and LA County or any county, state, doctors, nurses. This is a fact of life. Innocent people are dying. But I'll tell you, I work in the US Air Force, as you remember, and I'll tell you that we are supporting what you call dictators. That's the wrong policy. We are wasting money, you won't believe it.
Could I just ask you, do you support Obamacare?
No, everybody have a right. I wrote it. I am patient's right advocate. So everybody have to have a right to have a good quality health care. That's my agenda. Everybody. But the question is, because of the corruption, we have a problem.
I'd like to get the views of the other panelists, starting with Peter Matthews. Do you support Obamacare?
I think President Obama went in the right direction, but not nearly far enough. And he was blocked by Congress in many ways. We didn't get the public option to compete with the private sector. He left all the private insurance companies and HMOs in place, and some of them work well, some don't. Some HMOs are not efficient, and they charge way too much. So we need to move to a universal system that would be a Medicare for all system, very similar to Canada's. I'm not saying we should be exactly like Canada. I think that the elderly people here love Medicare. And we can have, if we bring the younger people into the system, middle-aged people, they'll be using the hospitals less, and it'll make the system stronger. And I think it'll be more efficient like they do. And the per person cost for healthcare in Canada is 2/3 what it is here. Yeah. 1/2 in France, and those people live longer than we do. We got a great country with the best technology in the world, health technology. Let's make it work for everyone. Preventive care is much better. You get preventive care that is brought in to cut costs in the long run as well.
Gary, all the Republican candidates, to a man now, we got to repeal Obamacare. It's the cry. What's your view of Obamacare?
Sure. Well, first of all, I do agree that everybody should have access to quality health care in our country. So that's certainly a premise. But when you look at Obamacare, does it improve the quality of care? I think the answer is no. Is it more cost effective or more efficient than the current system? The answer is no. So I don't think Obamacare is solving any of the problems. But having said that, we certainly have problems in our medical care delivery system, and we need to work together to improve it. But I know when I talk, for example, at the CEO at Long Beach Memorial Healthcare System and the hospital that does a great job, the government is the problem. The government is not the solution. The government won't allow them to become more cost effective with all the rules and regulations, and then the government doesn't even pay the cost of providing service to those Medicare customers. So certainly we need to do better.
Steve, is the government the problem in the field of medical care?
I think it is. The government's the problem. We don't need to have Obamacare, period. I don't want the federal government telling every American that they have to have a life insurance, a health insurance policy. And that's what this is. And that's the test that's going before the Supreme Court right now. I agree we should have health care available, but we should not be mandating that every American has to have a policy and we're going to tax you if you don't get one. There's lots of things we can do to help reduce the cost of it. We can do tort reform. If we just got the nation on the same kind of tort reform we have in California, where we can limit these outrageous settlements you get sometimes. If we could get multi-state collectives put together where we don't have to, right now, insurance is always by state. If we could even do a multi-state collective, well, some of these small states might actually be able to have a big enough pool of people who could create a good health care system, but they wouldn't be able to do it under this system. You're going to get the national system and no other system. There's too many ways to, I don't know where to start saying, how do we stop this?
So the answer is repeal.
Repeal it and start
Sandy,
over.
Sandy, you're a Republican, you're a businessman. Your view on Obamacare.
Okay, I won't hedge my answers at all. I'm flat out against Obamacare. The thought of the government dictating what health care you're going to get, how much, and what health care is abysmally wrong. And also the individual mandate saying you must buy this product or else we're going to tax you. That's horrible for the federal government. To me, I don't even see how they could have put that in, but hopefully the Supreme Court shoots it down. One problem we have with medical care in this country is that you have to buy the insurance in-state with all the mandates. Individuals should be able to go outside of the state and buy health care mandate-free and let them pick what they want, like a cafeteria, and you pay extra for whatever you want. Some people want...
So the free market is
some people might want psychiatric care. Fine, they pay extra. Some not. Some may want other types of medical care. Some don't. Let them choose. Give the consumer choice. The government should not be dictating.
Peter, I'll start with you on this round, particularly because you're a professor also, and ethics is a subject near and dear to my heart. We read recently about a middle-level executive at the prestigious investment banking firm of Goldman Sachs resigning because he no longer could accept the ethics of the firm. The fact that the firm, in his view, no longer puts the customer's interests first, but is just looking to maximize its own money-making capabilities. Do you see a problem in this country on ethics, and if so, what to do about it?
I really do, Art. This is a great country built on wonderful values. We need to go back to some of those traditional values, which says, you are your sisters and brothers' keepers. Do unto others they would do unto you. So ethics is the foundation of these types of principles. Without ethical behavior, it doesn't matter what kind of economic system you have, it won't work. So we've got to find a way to teach. I'm sure you teach our children how to be ethical and moral in Saturday school and Friday prayers and Sunday school, and yet our business people go out there, some of them, and act like robber barons, and I think right now they've bought the government through many corporate lobbyists giving money to campaigns of politicians. When the politicians get there, they forget their ethical promises or their moral promises to the voter, and they vote for things like big, huge tax loopholes when there's no money for schools or for job creation. So ethics has to underlie us. We are an ethical country in the core. We are a moral country, and we need to go back to that.
Gary, hasn't Peter really hit on a problem in the political system that, let's face it, it costs money to run for office. So many of you guys are raising hundreds of thousands of dollars to run for this office. And people donate for good reasons, and others kind of want something in return for it. How do you handle the problem of money in politics, and does it have a corrupting influence, not necessarily in the legal sense of corruption, but tilting the table towards the special interests and away from the people?
Well, certainly it has the potential to do that. I know that in my campaigns, I've always been very clear with anyone that wants to make a donation. If you contribute to me, you're investing in good governance and access, but I'm accessible to everybody. But that's why you should be supporting my campaign. There should be no other reason. There should be no quid pro quos. But to comment on your ethics, you gave a Goldman Sachs example, which I think is great. But look at the federal government. I mean, I think it's outrageous as we had this insider trading. That here you could go into a committee meeting, you could learn inside information, and then you'd walk out and trade in a stock. And I think that's indicative of a problem that we have a Congress. Many members think that they should be treated differently than the rest of the citizens. And I think you need to eliminate that. Members of Congress should have the same benefits as everybody else, no more, no less, but be on the same playing field.
The only one sitting at this table who has been a congressman is Steve Kuykendall.
Hopefully
did you feel special? Is there some truth to what Gary's saying about what happens when you go to Washington? You weren't there long enough to really get...
It's interesting talking about the one about insider trading. For the life of me, I didn't know that was going on. I guess I wasn't doing my job very well, but I got to tell you, it's a travesty if that has been going on, and it should be stopped immediately. I mean, before my time there, we had the postal scandal. We had the overdraft bank account scandal. I mean, all those kind of things. Congressmen are not immune to their own form of scandal, but it's time that you send people there that you have confidence in who they are and what their character is. I think the other issue that you touched on, which has me probably more irritated than anything, is we seem to have taken this entire concept of fair play and said, I really don't give a damn. Yeah. Fair play doesn't count anymore, folks. I'm going to screw you if I can. And if I'm smarter than you and I can screw you, well, I will. So you better be careful, because I'm going to take it to you. That's wrong. Just plain wrong. And these guys at Goldman Sachs, that group that the fellow you're talking about, he's an example of somebody that finally said, I guess I've had enough. I just can't keep doing this. I can't live with myself.
And as a Marine, it's the team that you focus on, and you have everyone's back.
Well, that was the point. I mean, in the Marine Corps, one of the greatest privileges I ever had was to be a Marine. But I tell you, being a Marine, you also knew that everybody that was sitting with you was also going to keep an eye out for you. Yeah. And no matter how bad it got, they were still going to keep an eye out for you. That hadn't been the case.
Sandy, what about the role of money? You're, again, from the business sector. Well, doesn't money ultimately corrupt? And
money has some influence, but talk about my campaign. I'm a small business owner. I'm financing my own campaign. I'm responsible to the people in the district. Yes. One of the ways you could limit the influence of money is say, I'll take no donation higher than $500, and that's it. But there's something else that the gentleman touched on indirectly that I favor, and that's term limits for congressmen and U.S. senators. Let people go to Washington, serve several terms, and then sayonara, goodbye, go back to your district, or go on to something else, run for dog catcher or whatever.
Doctor, we just have a minute left, but I have to ask you this question. Your wife, who could not be with us today, is a candidate. It costs $7,000 in filing fees to run for Congress. You're running. Isn't one in the family enough?
No, what happens is there was no woman running. Women are 50% population.
They are?
Women have a right, and there is many problems with women, like violence. As you know, Republicans are talking about birth control pills. So that is enough is enough. A woman has to take part, and that's why social workers agree to do something. For me, I'll tell you that term limit is essential. Everybody have agreed in the government, and that's a problem. You cannot change, but there is a need of what you call radical, responsible leadership at highest level. The thing is, buck don't stop, like the president is going to say. Everything don't stop at the president level.
Okay.
We have to change. We have to stop all these things.
Okay, we have to cut it there, and we'll be back after these messages.
I want to improve my career opportunities.
I want to earn a higher salary at my job.
I'd like to finish what I started.
The new Bachelor of Arts in Liberal Arts degree completion program at Cal State Long Beach will help you achieve your educational goals while keeping your life in balance. Contact our customer service center at 1-800-963-2250 for more information, or visit us on the web. Let CSULB help you finish what you started.
The Designation Program for Marine Terminal Operations Professionals at CSULB provides the knowledge and skills needed in the highly competitive and exciting maritime environment. The industry-relevant curriculum is taught by professionals and practitioners in the field. Complete the program requirements and advance your career in less than 1 year. Contact the Center for International Trade and Transportation at CSULB for more information.
We're continuing with this wonderful discussion of the candidates running for Congress for the new 47th Congressional District. Steve Kuykendall, Steve, you're a Republican. The issue of our borders and our defense of our borders and illegal immigration is much in the news, discussed throughout the country. What's your take on what we should do?
You got to secure the borders, and I'm not in favor of illegal immigration. There's a reason it's called illegal. I do think we have to look at some kind of a worker permit program, because we have a workforce that pretty naturally transits up and down North America. As the crops, particularly, crops come in at different times up and down the continent, so you have to have a workforce to move with them. If we don't have a way to do that, the challenge we're faced with, as local governments in particular are faced with it, in some cases state governments, is you don't know who it is you've got to give services to. So we have to come up with some mechanism in order to track that workforce. And as far as securing the border, we've done a huge amount since I was there. There's been huge improvements in the size of the Border Patrol, unmanned vehicles, fencing, all kinds of things, and we don't have anywhere near the transit now that we used to.
What about the status of the estimated 12 million illegal immigrants currently in the country today? What would you do about them?
I don't think you can ship them all back in one lump sum. You're going to have to deal with that case by case in some cases, and that may sound horrendous, but there are too many cases where you've got families. For instance, the young family that mother and dad may have come here illegally, and they brought their 2-year-old with them. Well, the 2-year-old is now 20 years old, wants to get a job and find out they're an illegal immigrant and don't know it. Well, they find out then. We've got to come up with something other than just a flat, no, we ship everybody back. It's logistically not something you're going to do anyway.
Gary, same question to you. What do we do about the borders, and what do we do about the millions of folks who are here illegally?
Well, I think Steve and I are in sync on this one. I think we need to strengthen our borders. They're too porous today. Although we have fewer illegal immigrants coming aboard, we still have too many. And number second is you do need to have some kind of a path to a work permit. Let's get people above the radar. Let's let them become tax-paying citizens or taxpayers like the rest of us. If they're going to utilize social services, let's have them pay into it. But I think the other component you need to have is if you've given someone a path to a work permit, then I also think there needs to be some kind of an e-verify program on the employer side. If there's an ability for them to get a work permit and get registered, then it's appropriate to make sure that the employers are doing that kind of a check to make sure they've gone through that process.
Peter, what do you think about the national political race? Do you think President Obama is going to be reelected? If so, why? And what do you think his biggest failing has been?
I do think President Obama is going to be reelected. I think the Republican crop of candidates are not quite adequate to the task of challenging him. They're having internal problems in the primaries to settle who's really going to be the leader. Mitt Romney's having a very difficult time winning southern states, and Rick Santorum is coming through very strong with social conservatives, and you got Newt Gingrich, a former speaker, who's only won 2 states. It's very interesting. I teach this class, and we discussed it. We're actually on my class is on this section right now, campaigns and elections. It was very exciting for me to watch that. Yeah, and I was also analyzing this for NBC for a year. I did public commentary on public issues for NBC and CNN. But really, I think President Obama will win in the end, because in the end, the public will see that President Obama has tried to get this country back on track again, try to get the economy going. The economy is slowly improving. And they'll also ask, what is the Republican alternative? I believe in bipartisanship. Let's bring Republicans and Democrats together to work for the American people, as President Roosevelt did. Franklin Roosevelt is the key. He really was able to rebuild this country in the Great Depression. Using his ideas to a certain extent, we can rebuild this country after the Great Recession.
Thank you. Sandy, do you think President Obama deserves re-election? If not, why not?
Absolutely not. I don't know if he's going to win or lose, but I do not agree that he should be reelected. His view of government and mine are totally different. He believes that growth comes from the government. I believe growth comes from the private sector, namely entrepreneurs, and they should be rewarded for risk-taking. He's just of the opposite point of view.
Doctor, we were talking about medical care and Obamacare earlier. Aren't you concerned about the government controlling Medicare, setting prices for everything? You get a hospital bill and it's $5,000 a day. It's crazy prices, and doctors aren't free to give the services that they want. Everything is controlled. Isn't that a bad? You're a doctor, so you're subject to this. Isn't that a bad thing for doctors?
Yeah, of course. When government comes in the picture for patient and doctor relation, that's really no good for anybody. So first thing that also government can't manage because there are so many middlemen comes in. That's the problem in America, businessmen, middlemen.
But you support Obamacare despite that.
No, I don't support. Listen carefully. I'm a quality care expert where quality standard is 30th in the world. People don't listen here, that's why people are dying. I'm trying to awaken and educate them that what is our right as an American. You have a right to have good quality care. Where is the cover-up and why people are dying? I am just giving you reason. I work as an expert quality care for 30 years at UCLA. And I'm telling you that care is very poor. I work for Medicare, Medicare, everywhere. And of course, I'm telling you that we need something special. The veterans coming down, you can give them small businesses, and that will grow also economy. And I think we have to have small government. There is no question about that. More government means more problems, and there are more middlemen comes in between. That's thank you for that, telling us.
Okay. Let's see, Sandy, what would be the most important thing that you would address would you on January 20th be sworn in as a congressman?
The most important thing is getting the economy growing vibrantly, getting it growing more than 3% per year on GDP. And the way to do that is reform the tax code to encourage people to take risks. In other words, encourage new business formation.
Steve, same question.
It's January 3. The president comes in on the 20th.
Sorry
We've
about
got to get
that.
the whole Congress in place so that he has somebody to send something to,
Okay.
whether we like it or not. That's the reason we get sworn in early. All those senators and congressmen.
He's been there. He knows what day he got sworn in.
But, I mean, yeah, the highest priority is going to have to be addressing the economy. We're still limping along. It's not limping anywhere near as well as it should. And
Does the size of the debt
absolutely the debt
bother you?
We've got $15 trillion worth of debt. We're adding $3 billion a day. $3 billion a day worth of debt. We've got to stop that, period. You've just got to stop adding this debt.
But you know, it's the Republicans that are always talking about cutting more taxes, more taxes. Under George W. Bush, we fought a war that we didn't pay for, first time in history. I mean, you'd think that the Republicans would be more sensitive to debt than they have exhibited in their behavior.
I think that's part of the problem what you got back there. You've got left and right. They both hunker down in their individual bunker. And then there's this 60% of Americans in the middle saying, folks, get me an answer. Don't just stand off in your corner. Right now, we don't have anybody coming forward to get an answer, and
Gary,
I think I can do that.
You want to be part of that 60% in the middle that's not getting the answer, but it is true that the Republicans have managed to pile up a huge amount of debt in fighting the Iraqi war.
No, you're absolutely right. Over the last 10 years, the cost of the federal government has doubled. So that's under Republican and Democrat administrations. Although I will say that it's increasing a lot faster in the current administration than it did the first, and that's statistically correct. But I think what I would do is a couple things. First of all, I do think we need to get to a balanced budget. You do it in two ways. First of all, you need to cut expenses. If you've doubled your expenses in 10 years, that means you need to cut. We need to cut. The second thing we need to do is we need to generate more revenues. I don't think more revenue necessarily is more taxes. I think more revenue is getting the private sector moving again to generate, growth in our economy. That's jobs for our unemployed. That's additional profits for owners. That's opportunities for middle managers to get promoted, for the workforce to get moving again. And then when you have that, you're going to get the tax revenue. You're going to get to a balanced budget. That's what we need to do. We need to get government's foot off the neck of the private sector. We have the best economy in the world, the best capitalistic society. Let's just give it a chance. Let it go.
Peter, the president, when he first came in, addressed the medical situation and passed Obamacare. It wasn't pretty, but he got it done. But he did it. It was not a bipartisan decision. Wasn't that a major mistake not to try and get something as large as 1/5 of the economy without bipartisan support?
Well, he really tried to have a bipartisan decision, but the Republicans mainly decided that they wouldn't go along with the public option, and the public option was killed. That would have been very important to have a nonprofit insurance company that would compete with the private sector to make the private sector more efficient. And that was completely knocked out because of disagreements, and so he wasn't able to get it through.
Gentlemen, time goes fast when you're having fun. We've come to the point where we need to start with the closing statements. First closing statement will be given by Senator Alan Lowenthal by videotape.
In closing, you have a clear choice this election. I offer a real chance to break through the partisan gridlock without compromising on key issues like protecting Social Security, Medicare, our environment, and jobs. I will lead in the efforts to reinvest in our society, to put people back to work, and to prepare us to succeed in the 21st century. My opponents offer more of the same in Congress. Bitter partisanship that's destroying our government and threatening the programs most important to us, like Social Security and Medicare. Thousands of Americans every day are getting thrown overboard, and my opponent's solution is a smaller lifeboat. We need a plan and leadership that's more focused on enriching our communities, investing in our youth, and building bridges across the partisan divide that will enable Americans to succeed. I hope that you'll agree with me that this is the best course for our country. Thank you, and for giving me this opportunity to speak to you.
We're back in the studio. Dr. Shah, your closing statement.
Yeah, dear friends, this is an awakening call for us. That's why I'm running. I'm paying my own money for the last 9 years to run for the elections. Of course, there are people who give the money, and there are lobbyists controlling the candidates in the pocket, and that has made our democracy worse. I am for the democracy. I don't want any salary even when I become congressman, because what we really need is a radical thinking. We have to stop cover-up crimes and corruptions in politicians, and they are career politicians. That's the problem. They think that, people are stupid, and I think that we have to do something about that. I must tell you also that we need what we call united effort. Also, we have to educate women, because that means family education, and we have to support green industries. No woman will be beaten, raped, mutilated, or sold in market if I become congressman.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shah. Sandy Khan.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a campaign about ideas, where we want to go in the future. Either we're going to have a set of policies in Washington, coming out of Washington, that will empower the individual or empower government. I'm strictly for empowering the individual. Government has enough control over our lives right now. What I support are these things, very quickly. Term limits for U.S. congressmen and U.S. senators. I also support a flat rate income tax with a large standard deduction. Above the standard deduction, everybody pays the same rate, including Warren Buffett, you and I. Get rid of all the deductions, no subsidies or whatsoever. We're over subsidizing businesses right now. The last thing, in the short time I have, is increased domestic oil production, namely getting the Keystone XL pipeline from Canada down here, plus giving incentives to increase our own domestic oil production.
Thank you, Sandy Khan. Steve Kuykendall.
Thank you. I had the great privilege to represent many of you at one time or another, and I would enjoy doing that again. I didn't win that seat because I was either in the hardcore right or the hardcore left. I won that seat because I was able to make consensuses or build consensus. That's what's needed right now. We need to send people back to Washington that have the ability to bring together both sides, and I've successfully done that, or I wouldn't have been elected in those seats. Just plain and simple. I am not an establishment candidate. I don't think I ever have been, but I have a bit of success at doing this. My time in the Marine Corps taught me how to deal with tough decisions. I don't think I ever had to deal with any of them as tough since then, but I can certainly tell you I am prepared to make tough decisions, and I would look forward to carrying your proxy back to Washington, D.C., and in carrying that proxy, I would like to very much earn your trust so that you would be happy to have me represent your interests before the greatest government in the land.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve. Gary DeLong.
Thank you, Art, and thank you very much for bringing us all together today. I think it's been a good discussion. I'm proud on the LA County side to have been endorsed by former Governor George Duke-Majan, Supervisors Mike Antonovich and Don Kanabe, Mayor of Lakewood, Mayor of Signal Hill, many other local elected officials. On the Orange County side of the district, I've been endorsed by the existing Congress members that represent this, Congressman Ed Royce, Congressman Dana Rohrabacher, State Senator Tom Harmon, most of the mayors in Orange County, many of the elected officials. And the thing that I would point out is those are all Republicans and Democrats. I have elected officials from both parties that are supporting me because they know that I'm somebody that can work with everybody. I'm an independent voice. I can get some things done. We're heading in the wrong direction, and I think that we all just want to work together and make sure that we're passing on in America to the next generation that's better than what we inherited, and I'm prepared to work for you to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. And finally, Peter Matthews.
Thank you so much, Art, for having us here. It's great to be here with you, ladies and gentlemen, with you, because it's a privilege to be able to run for Congress and to be able to go to Washington to return power to the American people once again from wealthy special interest lobbyists. For too long, power has been in the hands of a few special interest groups that donate money to our campaigns and our congressmen and congresswomen, and they serve the interests rather than us, the people. So I'd like to go to Washington to bring in jobs for everyone, high-tech, environmentally sustainable green jobs that will create more environmental sustainability and also good, wonderful lifestyles here for people who can afford to pay for their children's colleges, and to bring in health care for everyone in America, especially in our district right here. I think SCAN does a good job as an HMO that's contracted with the federal government. Some of them work very well. But we need to turn America around again, and we can do it by going to Washington and having no hands tied by special interest lobbyists. I'm that person. I have 2 feet, one in each part of the district. I teach in Cypress College, I've served that area, and I lived in Long Beach for 21 years. I'm the only candidate that has that. So thank you so much. Hope you'll vote for me, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Peter. And I'd like to thank each of the candidates for joining us in the Congressional Candidates Forum and for participating in the democratic process. Democracy does not work unless good men and women are willing to throw their hats in the ring and do all the things necessary to run a campaign. My hat is off to all of the candidates for taking the time and effort to run in this important race. Now it's our job as citizens to participate in the electoral process and make our voices heard. At the very least, we need to vote for the candidate that we prefer. If one of the candidates here today has inspired you, I'm certain he or she would welcome your volunteer efforts in this campaign. Campaigns take time and commitment, not just by the candidates, but also by members of the community. Don't leave it to others. Good people need to get involved to make the process truly representative. Your vote does make a difference. Every vote counts. Be sure to vote in the June 5th primary election. That's all the time we have. In addition to thanking all of the candidates for participating, we also want to thank our sponsor, SCAN Health Plan, for helping bring this program to you. On behalf of Straight Talk Productions and the College of Continuing and Professional Education at California State University, Long Beach, thank you for joining us. From the Advanced Media Production Studio at CSULB, I'm Art Levine. See you at the polls.
The Congressional Candidates Forum was sponsored by SCAN Health Plan as a public service to the community.